Today we're going to take an in-depth look at the Doona Plus, the somewhat kooky but indisputably unique car seat that transforms into its own stroller. Before we begin, it's important to note two things. Firstly, that while we have over 10 years experience repairing strollers, we don't have the same competence when it comes to car seats. So while we will be discussing the Doona as a car seat in relation to how practical the model is as a whole and how easy it is to use, our mechanical breakdown will be solely dedicated to the Doona as a stroller. Secondly, please note that we don't work for Doona in any capacity, or anybody else for that matter, and we intend to evaluate the model impartially. If you're here to find out which 4 dozen celebrities use the Doona, see a watered down and possibly paid for promotion piece, or know about how many shadily judged, industry awarding itself medals the Doona has received, just go to their own page, where you can see it all painted in pretty colors. So let's get started then, looking at the Doona in terms of child comfort, ease of use, performance and mechanics, and digging into whether it's actually worth its relatively high price. And beginning with some stats, the Doona clocks in at 7.5 kilos, which is a bit heavier than both other car seats and most ultra compacts, and which is not the true weight that you'll be lifting, since the whole point of the Doona, of course, is to not have to remove your child when getting in and out of the car, and which actually means then a range of roughly 10 to 23 kilos, which at the upper end is more akin to a heavy tandem model decked out with 2 seats. As far as folded dimensions go, the Doona folds down to 60 by 44 by 66 centimeters, which should also be read differently than with a conventional stroller, this time in the Doona's favor, since, as a car seat, the model won't be competing for trunk space. When it comes to child comfort, the Doona is a zero-group car seat, usable up to 13 kilos, or until your child is either 81 centimeters high, their head peaks over the top of the seat, or the shoulder and side straps are no longer properly aligned with your baby's shoulders and hips. In my experience with parents, this usually means 8 to 9 months, though there can be wide variation here, with children outgrowing the Doona as early as 5 months or as late as over a year. The Doona seat has a fixed position, making use of removable inserts to allow for both a more ergonomic position for the early newborn phase and a slightly larger and more upright position for the later phase, though there have been complaints that the upright position frustrates 6 to 8 month olds eager to sit up, and in addition, for babies younger than 6 months, the position provided by the inserts does not count as a lie-flat position, meaning that use of the model for prolonged periods carries the same dangers present with any car seat in terms of breathing, blood flow, and hip spine development. 2 hours is the generally accepted thinking as far as how long a child will be safe in a car seat, but as Doona themselves point out, as long as an infant is in a position like this, they're at potential risk and need to be continuously checked on. And on their website they write, the Doona was not necessarily made to replace a stroller, but more for short trips out of the car, like doctor's appointments, buying gas, short trips to the mall, etc. Looking lastly at sun protection, the Doona's canopy is essentially a car seat canopy, not a stroller canopy, and provides insufficient protection, both in terms of its length and its thin spandex-like material, for prolonged trips outside of the car in comparison with what one gets with the majority of actual strollers. Moving on to parent comfort and ease of use, the Doona has a somewhat short fixed handle height of 97 centimeters, making it somewhat unsuitable for taller parents, and no inbuilt storage capacity. As far as folding and unfolding goes, the process is easy enough, though it's worth noting that the model does unfold with a quick jarring thunk, quite capable of waking up a lighter sleeping baby, rather than with the controlled motion suggested by their undoubtedly slowed down advertisement video, that looks to me at least as though the Doona has hydraulics. It doesn't. When it comes to carrying, though the basic concept of the model limits the number of situations where one needs to lift it, just the process of taking it in and out of the car with your baby in it will be a heavy task for slighter-built parents or people with weaker backs, and the added weight versus a conventional car seat, which is also heavy when carrying a baby, can really make a difference if you plan to carry it upstairs, to an apartment for example. And the model's weight filters into driving as well, at least in the sense that the design concept requires as light a weight as possible, and the weight requirements needed to fulfill all of the padding, impact resistance, connection bars for the base, and other features necessary for the Doona as car seat have left little extra for the model's stroller functions, which is undoubtedly a major factor in why the Doona lacks any form of suspension, has almost entirely plastic front and rear frames, and has somewhat weak, wear-prone wheels versus what one finds on a lot of other strollers of this size. Also negatively impacting how it feels to drive is the fact that the Doona's handle is quite loose right out of the box, which, when combined with these other factors and compounded by the sketchily low height of the seat itself, makes for a jittery, rickety, and unsafe feeling driving experience, at least over any ground rougher than the quick trips into stores and other indoor environments, which are the model's intended purpose. Alright, Moving on to the mechanics of the Doona, the handle rotates across 3 positions, extending telescopically via the same sort of design that is standard among strollers with telescopic handles, with the addition of internal safety catches that prevent the handle's extension other than in the intended parent-facing driving position. And the looseness of the handle is a real problem here in my opinion, as these functions indicate a fair degree of internal complexity susceptible to malfunction should internal components fall out of alignment as a result of wear. In addition, since the handle also doubles as the anti-rebound bar when the Doona is in car seat mode, I seriously hope that their testing of the model as a car seat takes into account the potential for the handle weakening as a result of prolonged use in stroller mode. Doona's stock response to complaints that the handle feels flimsy, cheap, or wobbly seemed to be that, quote, the handle has a certain amount of play in it in order for it to rotate between positions. The movement is necessary for the handle to do its job safely, which in my experience with a variety of different stroller brands is simply not true. Looseness like this actually resulting from a failure to build with precisely fitted components, sufficiently strong materials, and/or sufficiently strong screws holding the assemblies of moving parts together. That noted, beyond the unacceptably loose handle, the Doona's central folding mechanisms involve a rather thickly proportioned 3-disc rotation system, similar to what Bugaboo uses, and at least with the rear and front frames, as opposed to the handle, there is little reason to suspect major wear problems resulting from the model's more limited intended use, though how quickly this mechanism will wear down if used over a period of years or for multiple children is more questionable. As one last concern about the general design of the Doona, though I said that I don't want to go too much into the technical side of the Doona as a car seat, the sheer amount of complaints related to the model eventually failing to lock to the base is something that can't be ignored, and it does legitimately seem to be a recurring mechanical problem, and definitely something that anyone looking to get the Doona ought to be aware of. Moving down to the rear frame, there's again no suspension, and the rear frame is built predominantly of corrugated plastic with a lightweight aluminum crossbar, sufficiently sturdy for use over smoother terrain. The Doona's rear wheels are decently sized, but sit a little loose, are not easily removable, and are not particularly durable, either in terms of their thinner than average plastic rims or with the quality of the tires. As far as the brakes go, the Doona uses a wire-based 2-pedal system built relatively simply but utilizing a few smaller plastic elements in how it locks and unlocks that have the potential to fail down the road from wear, and since the whole setup is riveted together, will also be quite difficult to fix if problems occur. Looking lastly at the front end, despite the model having decently sized wheels, they're again constructed in a lighter weight and less durable than average manner, have no suspension or swivel locks, both elements being unnecessary inside stores and doctors' offices, of course. And also, though the forks sit pleasantly tight within the front frame, the wheels themselves are quite loose within those forks, further exacerbating the rattly and rickety feeling when driving produced by the model's loose handle. So, should you get the Doona? Personally, my opinion is no. I wouldn't anyway, though it is necessary to qualify this answer in a few ways. The Doona, you see, does provide a certain luxury if used in its intended manner, meaning as something to have in addition to a regular stroller. But, especially with a price hike since the first iteration, it's quite an expensive luxury, since the model is so severely limited, both in terms of the length of its use period and in how and where it can be used during this period. And please note here that, both due to the longevity concerns that I've expressed, and more importantly to the fact that the Doona is a car seat, which increases the need to be sure of its structural integrity, this is not a model advisable to buy used, or that will be easy to get good value for by selling used when you're done with it. And for these reasons then, for most people, there's much better value to be had in simply going for something like an ultra-compact combined with a lie-flat car seat, both for increased functionality when using the seat, and for continuing functionality, with the ultra-compact at least, past the 1-year mark. In any case, we hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. In addition, if you are currently shopping for a stroller, we have a buyer's guide on our Patreon page which lists a wide range of models we recommend, with a lot of technical and lifestyle related information. You can find it by following the link in the description. Thank you.